What's going on, everyone? Bobbybarks here, and welcome to my review video for The Last of Us Part 2. Couple of things before we get started. This video is going to contain spoilers around the main story arc of The Last of Us Part 2, including the ending. So if you're not caught up, if you've not completed the game, this is your warning now. Switch off, go finish what you need to finish before you come back and watch this. Other things to mention, these are my own thoughts. I've not watched any other review videos. I've tried to distance myself as much as possible from the internet. I've not watched any promotional material from Naughty Dog. I'm aware they're doing a podcast, and I'm aware that there's other things going on around social media in terms of how Naughty Dog are promoting this game and what they've tried to put out there before the game was released as well. I didn't watch any of that. So some of the things that I talk about in this video may have been covered by Naughty Dog, may have been covered by other people that have done a review video, but I've really tried to make sure that I've avoided as much as possible so that you're getting my own opinions and my own thoughts, and I'm not being swayed by what other people think. I am aware that there's been some animosity on social media about the story. I am a moderator on Reddit and Discord for The Last of Us Factions multiplayer. So I was aware of some comments here and there, some posts here and there about certain things. I did see some of the spoilers before I played the game. I did try to avoid it as much as possible. However, I did get spoiled a little bit in terms of what was going to happen to certain characters, but obviously not whereabouts in the game that was going to happen. Alright, first things first, I want to start with the plus points for the game, the things that I really enjoyed about it, and these, like I said, are my own individual thoughts. Some of you will agree, some of you will disagree. You're all entitled to your own opinions, and I can respect anyone's that's different from mine, but in terms of what I enjoyed, this is what I really liked. Now, I could make it a full-length video for 45 minutes to an hour about the attention to detail and some of the things that I wanted to talk to you about. So I've just picked some examples out to show you what I'm talking about. So the first one I want to show is quite early on in the game. It's Ellie on a horse and how the snow and the ice react to your movements with that horse. The way the horse's hooves move through the snow and the footprints that it's leaving, and same again with how that ice just breaks up under the weight of the horse and Ellie. You just don't find it at that sort of level in other games. Again, early on in the game, playing as Abby, the way you're touching the trees with the snow on and how the snows fall off the trees, it's just how your actions as that character make the environment react to the paths that you're taking. Now, one of my favourite things about the attention to detail in the game is how lifelike some of the animations are. So look at the cord, for example, on the generators when you're messing around with these, and you just see how the cord reacts to your movement. You know, pull it, and it's just so lifelike. Just look at that, look at the back through the window, how that cord moves with your strength of the weight that you're pulling it on. One of the other things I picked up on, you know, you move up the stairs backwards as Ellie. I imagine it does the same as Abby as well, but if you're moving up the stairs backwards, Ellie actually turns ahead and looks. She's watching where she's going. And one of the other things about how the environment reacts to your actions, look at the footprints at the side of where I'm crawling here as Ellie. That's a dusty floor, and that's Ellie's footprints in the dusty floor. And the fact that I've gone prone and crawled there as well, if you look behind, it just leaves the crawl mark as well. The fact that the environment just does that, like I say, you just do not find it in any other game. It's absolutely brilliant. I just loved messing around. I mean, like I said at the start, there's 25 to 30 hours of gameplay footage in here, but you could literally take 50-60 hours just to find all this kind of detail. Now, when I talked earlier about how the characters react to the environment, this is one of the really positive things about this game. And when I was playing as Abby, you obviously, I think most of you will have picked up on the fact that she's acrophobic. She doesn't like heights, she has a fear of heights, and how her character reacts to being in a position of height. And I'm acrophobic as well. I have a fear of heights, and I would react in a very similar way. The fact that you get the expressions on the face, the way her body starts moving, you can see the vertigo really kicking in. And look at the facial expressions, and just look at her hair moving in the wind as well. She tilts her head, her hair moves. It's just unbelievable. It is really groundbreaking. You just don't find this much in any other game. You might find little bits and pieces in Red Dead Redemption or even as far back as Skyrim to certain things, but you just don't find all of this put together in one game. Naughty Dog have really set a standard here that is going to change gaming in a way that no other game has done before. There's two more things that I want to show you before we move on from attention to detail, and it was how Ellie's actions change some of the NPCs as well. So we talked about how your actions change the environment, but how the NPCs react to some of the actions that you take in the game as well. So the first thing I want to show you is Ellie here going in melee, love a bit of melee, smacking the NPC around the face with the baseball bat, and you can see if I freeze it there, the blood splatter that goes out of the guy's body across towards the window is absolutely brilliant. Now if I just rewind and go back and pause it and go into photo mode, look at that. You can see the blood splatter across the guy's face, and if you look closely, you can see his teeth. His teeth are coming out of his mouth. I'll just zoom in a little bit for you there. I mean, look at that. You know, you smack somebody across the face with a baseball bat, and the teeth come flying out. It's just brilliant. And the other thing I wanted to show you, similar sort of situation. You know, you can throw bricks and bottles and whatnot, but if you throw a bottle at somebody's face, it generally smashes across the face. Now, if I could just get in here and... Now, if I just get in here and shoot this person and hold them, and then again we'll go into photo mode and have a look at the face. Face is all blooded and cut. Can you see the glass in the face? Zoom in a little bit more. Look at that. Look at that angle there. Better angle for you there. There's actually pieces of glass stuck in her face from where you've thrown the bottle at her. Are you impressed yet? Are you impressed yet? Because I'm really impressed. Now, as I say, I could go on for 45 minutes to an hour talking about different things and giving you different examples, but I think that's enough for now. So what I'm going to do now is move on to Easter eggs, because Easter eggs are one of my favourite things in video games. I love how a developer can get the attention of the gamer with just subtle little hints here and there. And the first one I want to pick up on is the Uncharted ring that you find when you get into the safe. It's a really, really nice throwback to Uncharted and their franchise, and I love the fact that it's the ring with the quote from Sir Francis Drake, because it translates to greatness from small beginnings. And as we all know, Naughty Dog started as a really small studio from small beginnings and have developed into one of the greatest developers that Sony's ever worked with. Another nice Easter egg is seeing Gustavo in Jackson right at the start of the game. You see him there just playing a tune, cracking out, chilling in Jackson, and it's really great to see them incorporate him into the game somehow. Kind of reminds me just how Stan Lee pops up in the Marvel franchise movies. Now, one of my favourite X-rated Easter eggs, again, pretty early on in the game, when you find Dina and Ellie doing the patrols, are the X-rated movies that they find. So the fact that we've got two videos there called Dong of the Wolf and Smash Brandy's Cooch, are nice little references and play on words from other things within the Naughty Dog franchise. So Smash Bandicoot was obviously a game from Naughty Dog, and Dawn of the Wolf was movie posters that you'll find across The Last of Us Part 2, as well as the original game. Now, like with the attention to detail, the Easter eggs, I could probably make a full-length video about it on their own. However, a couple of other things I just want to point out before we wrap up on Easter eggs is, if you played the original game and you remember Sam, the little boy that Ellie befriended in The Last of Us Part 1, and there was a robot toy from the toy shop, when there was in the toy shop, that Sam wanted to take. Now, if you remember, Ellie took the toy for Sam because he wasn't allowed to take it. His big brother wouldn't let him take it. So Ellie took it. Now, there was a missed opportunity for Ellie to give the toy back to Sam, and Sam unfortunately passed away in The Last of Us Part 1. But it seems Ellie's kept that toy, and right at the start of the game, as you're moving around Ellie's home, you'll notice the robot toy just sat there on one of the shelves. Now, one last Easter egg, I promise, and this is really, really fun one. When you're playing as Abby, she's reading a book called City of Thieves. Now, that book was written by David Benioff, and some of you might know that David Benioff is co-writing a show with Neil Druckmann for HBO, which will be based on The Last of Us. Now, within City of Thieves, the protagonist in that book is a character called Lev. Now, as we move on through the story of The Last of Us Part 2, you come across a character called Lev Benioff. And I thought that was just really, really fun to see that. So you've got Lev Benioff, whose name's obviously made up from Lev from City of Thieves, and the author David Benioff. I just thought that were worth pointing out to you all, because I thought that was a really, really nice, subtle little thing that they put in the game, and a nice Easter egg reference for those of you that got it. Now, a couple of the things that I want to talk to you about in a bit more detail are around the combat mechanics and the graphics. And then we've touched on some of this as we went through the attention to detail, but the combat mechanics in The Last of Us Part 2 are so far enhanced from previous Naughty Dog games and other games that I've played. The motion capture, the scenes, blood pools, death scenes, the reactions of NPCs, what happens to them if you shoot them in the leg, what happens to the blood splatter if you shoot them in the head and near a wall, how all that interchanges again with the actions that you take and the reaction that the environment makes to those actions, and just how the NPCs react to some of those things as well. A nice little play on things as well was how you can use runners to assist you when you're coming up against clickers. You can grab a runner, throw him into the way of a clicker, and the clicker will start eating on the runner. I thought that was brilliant, and it just made the game feel so tense, and it was so immersive, so realistic, and so much beyond what I've been used to over my years of gaming. So I think all in all, with the graphics, the combat mechanics, the Easter eggs, and the attention to detail, you're going to find this to be a 10 out of 10 game on those premises alone. Now, let's address the elephant in the room and the story, because I know the story is arguably the main point people have a problem with about this game, and what happens to certain characters and how the game makes you play certain characters a certain way. I don't think anyone is quite prepared for everything that this game is about to throw at you. There's over 30 odd hours of a brutal revenge quest layered with loving relationships, crushing losses, and angsty waiting life or death decisions, and it's enough to send me into therapy. I don't know about the rest of you. I was obviously very excited about playing The Last of Us Part 2, particularly after the original was one of my favourite games, and I've invested 7 years of my life into The Last of Us Part 1, albeit mainly with the multiplayer, but the original story was so close to my heart as a father of daughters, and the way that Joel acts towards Ellie and the struggle that he went through at the end of the game and the decisions that he made, I think are what any father would have made. And I know there's that scene with Abby and her father and the discussion about whether he would have done the same had it been Abby that was immune, but I don't think he would. And it's the age-old argument, isn't it? Do you sacrifice somebody that you love for the good of the planet, or the good of the human race, or to save the human race, or to save the majority? Do you let 100 innocent lives suffer just because you're saving somebody you love? And that question will just echo throughout this game and this community and probably the world for years to come, because I don't think, unless you're put in that situation, would you ever know the answer or be able to answer that question. Certainly as a father myself, did he have to kill all the fireflies in the building, or the majority of the fireflies in the building? Probably not. But I don't think they were going to let him take her out alive. So, as excited as I was about playing this sequel, the teasers and the trailers that led into this game made it look like this was going to be an adult game. It was going to be a lot darker. It was going to be about hate. It was going to be about revenge. I think Neil Druckmann had said it in a press release a few years ago that the original game was a story about love and this game was a story about hate. And that's the take that I got from it with the teasers and the trailers before the game was released. And that subsequent bit of marketing touted the game as glorifying in vengeance, bloody murder, carried out in an intimate way over and over again. And you're just plumbing the depths of human atrocities. You know, and then you add to the fact that 2020 has probably been the worst year on record for everyone that's alive today. What with a global pandemic and economic collapse and civil unrest. And before I put the game on, I just knew that it wasn't going to offer any sort of escapism to what 2020's been about. And I don't think I was looking forward to playing the game, knowing the bloody road that would lie ahead. But 30 hours later, I'm so glad I did. And perhaps The Last of Us Part 2 will act as a sort of catharsis for folks struggling with 2020 and the world that we find ourselves in today, much like the original did. And its plot certainly feels plucked from today's headlines and heightened just enough to verge into science fiction. We pick up a few years after the original, 4 years after Joel and Ellie made their way back to Jackson. But not much has changed. The post-apocalyptic world is still in the grip of a deadly parasitic fungus that kills, mutates and monsterizes otherwise normal humans. And yes, all your favourite clickers and runners and bloaters, stalkers are back, plus whatever the hell that new abomination stage 6 infected was. And in it all, Ellie is still the exception to that rule. She's the lone human who has this immunity to that disease. And of course, Ellie's condition was the driving force behind the original story, in which Joel played as the protagonist throughout it all. And I think just overnight, months from the PS3 release that Joel became a landmark character across Sony, across Naughty Dog, across gaming in general. And he was one of PlayStation's major characters that you would find in a lot of their marketing and advertising. And I get what happens to him at the start of the game is horrific. It's really horrific. And I understand the frustration and the upset that some people who have followed this character, who have followed Joel and Ellie, who wanted to play again as Joel and Ellie in The Last of Us Part 2, got served such a sucker punch at the start of the game that it makes you hate. It makes you want the revenge. It immerses you into the story as Ellie, demanding revenge, demanding vengeance, wanting the blood of Abby and her friends for what they've done to Joel. You want that too, because of how you played the original game. So you fall into the same mindset as the protagonist for part 2. But then you get that brutal part halfway through the game where you switch to play as Abby and you see what Abby's gone through. And it's a similar journey to Ellie. She's no too different a character. There's no good people or bad people in this world. There's just shades of grey in different areas, whether it's the WLF, whether it's Seraphites, Fireflies, Hunters, the Jackson community. There is no good people, bad people. Just shades of grey everywhere. And I think, again, it's groundbreaking for a video game to put you in this position. You've gone through the story as Ellie. You've gone through 3 days butchering, murdering, seeking vengeance for what's happened to Joel. That come the end of it, you realise the consequences of your actions once you've killed Mel. And there's a lady laid dead there, 8 months, 9 months pregnant, however far along she is. And then when you switch to Abby, you have to empathise with those characters. You have to play as those characters, like you played as Ellie and Joel. And what other gaming experience offers that level of, holy shit, this is heavy storytelling? The few and far between, and I'd be willing to argue that The Last of Us Part 2 does it better than any of them. You will absolutely become one of the characters within the story, even the ones you hate, with every fibre of your being, and that is expert storytelling. It allows us as players, as human beings, to not only empathise with their hurt, the joy, the hopes, the dreams, but to understand or at least rationalise the extremes to which they'll go to achieve the goals, and whatever that may be. And the empathy is not just restricted to us protagonist, but it includes the enemies as well. The Last of Us Part 2 obviously embodies and delivers everything the original title was about, and you'll get a little bit of modern Tomb Raider or even Red Dead Redemption 2 along the way, but what it does better than anything is humanise the antagonists. And to name drop another Naughty Dog title, such as the Uncharted franchise, simply because the scores of nameless, faceless bad guys you mowed down and wrecked, abandoned. Nathan Drake was basically a puzzle-solving, rock-climbing mass murderer, and we as gamers were supposed to celebrate that. The Last of Us Part 2 is a sea change from that approach. Every enemy has a name, a backstory, people who know and love and miss them. And I do mean every enemy. Keep in mind, even the infected were humans once. There's an ungodly amount of lore scattered across the world that tell some of their individual stories, and without the exception, they're haunting. Remember that the dogs who pursue you have handlers, trainers and owners who love them and give them head scratchers and play fetch. And The Last of Us Part 2 puts the weight of the decision to kill each and every enemy, infected, human, dog or whatever, squarely on your shoulders and your conscience. And probably my therapy bill too. You can stealth around, you can sneak around almost everyone and everything through the excellent movement mechanics, but it all come at a cost. You'll have to decide what kind of player you want to be. And I am rubbish at stealth. I found myself running through the game with a shotgun, taking out nearly every enemy that I could. But the game's narrative reminds you of your actions at almost every level. And what of the ending? Well, it's a bitter pill to swallow, I'll give you that. And throughout the game, our perception of Ellie shifts somewhat as we begin to empathise more with Abby. And after all, the parallels between the two characters become increasingly clearer, and both women are simply fighting to avenge something that they love. And Abby grows throughout the game, developing a bond with Lev despite the tribal differences, refusing to let Owen make her a mistress, and showing mercy to Ellie at the end. And Abby lets go of her revenge mission and gains more than she ever had previously, and her power becomes her ability to let go. Whereas on the other hand, Ellie's blinded by a vendetta and feels that she will never truly get close until she avenges Joel's death. And she's wrapped up in her own guilt about how her relationship with Joel ended, the part she played in his death and the sheer grief of the traumatic situation she endured. But despite having built a somewhat idyllic life that was paving the way for a brighter future, she just didn't know how to let go. A sense of PTSD, if you like. And as a consequence, Ellie loses everything. Not only did she lose her own sense of self, she lost the family she had built in Jackson and the picture-perfect life she had built with Dina. And she even lost the ability to play guitar, which is something that helps her feel connected with Joel. And the ending is heartbreaking, poignant, but while many loose ends are tied up in a neat little bow, we still have some questions. And for a start, where is Ellie heading off to? What's her next plan? We could see our broken protagonist heading back to Jackson to try and rebuild, or perhaps even sentencing herself to lonesome life on the road. We're hoping she's going to go track down Dina and JJ to beg forgiveness. Dina could have headed back to Jackson, but that seems a bit too easy. I think we're all just hoping that they'll be reunited once more. However, given that a lot of the game is played as Abby, have we perhaps seen the last of Ellie? Could it be that future Last of Us games focus on Abby from here on in? And after all, we don't really know where Abby and Lev are going to head to following their escape. The assumption is that the pair are going to hunt down the reformed Fireflies, wherever they may be, because despite the rattlers disrupting their communication, it seems like Owen's tip may have been legitimate. But with Ellie still alive, she remains the only immune person that we have, or that we know of. So we could see Abby reuniting with the Fireflies, then hunting down Ellie to finish her late father's work and creating a cure for the infected. But regardless of who we'll be playing as, it looks like the potential for Last of Us 3 will focus on the reformed Fireflies, but don't expect any news on any time soon. Naughty Dog have still not even confirmed whether there will be a part 3, and even if there will, I think we're all going to need a bit of time to recover from The Last of Us Part 2. So that's my review. I hope you've enjoyed what I've got to say. By all means, share your opinions in the comments section below, and I'd love to interact and see what you all thought of the game too. Thanks for watching, and bye for now.